Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. It is December 29th, and I hope everyone has had a wonderful Christmas. We are fast going to be moving on from 2020 in a couple of days, and I hope everyone spent the time with the people they loved and they had a wonderful, warm, safe, and happy Christmas. So today I'm so excited. It is our eighth episode for the Ask the Expert series. Um, so we launched the Online Vocal Academy in May, and so every month we invite a special guest to come on to do these interview sessions where we talk about a specific focus point, something related to vocal performances or stage performing. So in the past, we've had music producers come on, singer-songwriters. Last month, we had a confidence coach come on. And this month, I'm super excited to be welcoming Kelli Youngman, who's a Broadway performer and coach, to do this interview with me. So this interview is called Living Your 10 out of 10 Life, Reclaim Your Vision for 2021. We're going to be talking all about that. It's perfect timing for where we are right now. So first of all, let me ask you, are you living your life at a 10 out of 10? And if not, what needs to happen in order for you to be living your very best life right now? So, as I mentioned before, this month's guest is Broadway performer and coach Kelli Youngman. And Kelli really is no stranger to uncertainty. And she credits hard work combined with a very clear vision for her incredible success on Broadway. Now, when the pandemic hit New York and forced Broadway to close its doors in January, Kelli found herself again paddling against the current and facing that uncertainty. Today, we're going to learn how Kelli envisioned her success on stage, how she's been using this time to grow, to expand, and also how she's helping others to double down on their personal vision so that they can live their life at a 10 out of 10, even in the darkest of times. So I'm super thrilled to be diving into this topic with all of you today. And I see some people coming in. Hello, Angela. Lovely to have you here. I'm glad to have you here. And if you're just joining us, go ahead and pop a comment in the box here so we know you're here. We can welcome you. Whether you're watching us live, thank you for joining in live, or watching the replay, do let us know you're here so we can welcome you properly. All right. So before we begin, for those who are joining me for the very first time, my name is Crystal Diaz. I'm a singer, vocal coach, and co-founder of the Online Vocal Academy. And at the Online Vocal Academy, what we do is we help aspiring singers, speakers, coaches, and other content creators who want to go from feeling insecure about the way they sound, feeling insecure about being heard, to discovering the brilliance of their voices so that they can share their gifts more confidently with others. So in January, I'll be launching a free mini training called it's a brand new mini training that I'll be launching called The First 3 Steps Towards Discovering Your Voice. Now, in this training, I'm going to walk you through the very first 3 things that I teach every one of my students when they come for their very first vocal lesson with me. So you can kind of think of this free training as your first lesson with me, and it happens to be free. So whether you want to use your voice to sing a great song, tell a great story, or deliver a powerful presentation or podcast, now this mini training will give you a head start to using your voice to make a bigger impact. So as I said, I'll be releasing this mini training in January. So if you want to be the first in line to get it, then head over to 3steps.onlinevocalacademy.com. That's 3steps.onlinevocalacademy.com, or click on the link that's below in this description box there, and get on the wait list, and you'll automatically be entered to win a free 15-minute vocal consultation with me. So get on the wait list, and automatically you'll be entered to win a free 15-minute private session online with me, so I can help guide you and kickstart your journey towards discovering the power of your voice. All right. Again, that is 3steps.onlinevocalacademy.com. So without further ado, I'd love to now take this time to introduce my guest expert of the month. So Kelli Youngman is a coach living in New York City. She's also a professional dancer and has performed on Broadway in such hit musicals as Anastasia, which I love, The King and I, which I also love. And she recently started her own business, Kelli Youngman Wellness, to share her vision of wellness through worthiness. It's beautiful. Wellness through worthiness. She'll also be launching a digital course in January called the Performer's Plan, which helps performers manage their mind, body, and money to create the career they desire. So, without further ado, let's welcome Kelli Youngman to our live stream. Hello, Kelli.
Hi, Crystal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on here, and very Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones. I know we were having a little chat earlier before we began, and I know that you had a nice white Christmas. But I think New York, Christmas in New York has, people have a vision of that. I've spent some time in New York, but not on Christmas. And I'm sure this Christmas is an anomaly. Nothing resembles what is normally happening in New York during this time. Is that right?
Yes, I will say they've done a good job of making it safe and accessible and still festive in as many ways as they can. The tree at Rockefeller Plaza was still up and they were allowing people to take photos socially distanced. So, I think they managed to bring a lot of cheer, even though this year is, like you said, an anomaly and very different from usual years.
100. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's wonderful to see. But is the ice skating rink? I guess that's closed, right? The ice skating
No,
rink.
well, it was open as well. I think
Oh, it was.
yeah, they're limiting how many people can go on at a time. But like I said, yeah, I was surprised to see it as well. Even at Bryant Park, that ice rink was open as well. But yeah, everyone's wearing masks and they're doing everything they can to make it safe and still
Oh,
festive.
that's wonderful. I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that. And I see there's a few Inner Circle members here coming on, members of our online membership program. Hey, Angela and Katie Lung is here, and Taylor is here. Hello, hello, and welcome, welcome. So glad you're all joining us this morning. Well, morning for us in Hong Kong, evening for you where you are in New York. All right, so I'd love to know. Let's just kind of go from the beginning here. Did you always know that you wanted a career on stage, and was this a vision that you've always had for yourself, or did it take you some time to figure it out?
Yeah, so I actually started dancing when I was 3 years old. And so I had been a performer my whole life. But as I got older, I was a little bit confused about whether I wanted to pursue dance professionally or where I was going to go with it. So I ended up going to college for dance and I got my BFA in dance. And after I graduated, I thought I was actually heading more towards concert dance or modern companies or something like that. And it took me a while to figure out that I was really meant to be in musical theater and singing and dancing and acting, and that was where my true passion was. So it took, yeah, that kind of took me a little bit of time to come around to that and discover. But I guess you could say I kind of had always been a performer. So that was kind of part of my path from the beginning.
You started at 3 years old. So I have a 7 year old and I have a 5 year old, and both of them are very into dance. We've always put them in dance classes, but obviously with now with everything that's going on, a lot of classes have been suspended. But as a 3 year old, did is this something that you were always just moving, or your parents decided, oh, let's put her in dance, or it's just, I mean, how do you decide that as a
No,
parent?
honestly, so I'm adopted and I have a younger sister who's not even a year younger than me. And at the time, I think my mom signed us up for a mommy and me dance class. So we would go, but because she had two of us, I would always dance with the teacher. And they could just see right away that I was like a natural and that I really loved it. And so ever since then, I just continued doing it and started going to dance camps over the summer and slowly was like doing competitions by the time I was like 5 and 6. And so, yeah, it was like it just became my life. And yeah, I think even at 9 years old, I went away for my first ballet summer program. And that became like an annual thing that I would train in the summers. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Isn't that amazing that you don't really know, one action of your mom just taking you to Mommy Me class would just, kickstart. I think everything happens for a reason, right? And
yeah,
so speaking of that, I remember hearing you speak in another session that we were at together, and you said you once said you believed you manifested your Broadway career, and I just really want to get some details about that. Can you share what you mean by that? How you did that?
Yes, 100% manifested my Broadway debut within 6 months. And I know for people,
Amazing.
yeah, for people that are like, some people I know have an aversion to the word manifest because it kind of infers the sense of magic, but I do think that's part of that energy of just trusting and believing it's going to happen. But truly, it was just the fact that I made the decision. I decided that this was what I was going to do, like 100%. And I committed myself to this vision. So I started doing visualization exercises and, really allowing myself to imagine what it would be like to be on Broadway. And I just really was training heavily and preparing myself for that life. And so that's how I describe the manifestation process. But
Amazing. And then I guess in a way you were starting to notice things, opportunities that started to come your way because you were so focused on casting this vision for yourself. But I just want to kind of dive in a little deeper about that moment when you said, I just decided that I wanted a career on Broadway. But sometimes I feel that we can be confused about what it is that we truly want. So, how do we know where to kind of align ourselves? Or does it honestly not matter? What matters is to make a decision and then kind of let the universe take over. I mean, what is your perspective on that?
well, I think it's a little bit of both. And if you're feeling like you don't have the clarity, I think the best thing to do is just like find out what feels right to you. Like what makes you excited? Like what lights up your heart and your spirit? And when you think about it, you get very excited. And I think that when it comes to allowing ourselves to dream, sometimes we start thinking, like, oh, is this the right thing? Should I be doing something else? And we actually get in our own way because we're trying to figure it out when sometimes we don't have to figure it out. So, yes, I think it is good to be specific, but only to the point where it still feels good and fun. And yeah, that you're enjoying it because
Yeah.
again, it's not always about the end result. It's about the process on the way. And again, like when it came to deciding that I was going to be on Broadway, it's like, okay, I am surrendering to the universe. I'm going to be on Broadway by the end of the year, but I didn't know what show I was going to be in. And people, I remember quitting my restaurant job at the time and saying to them, well, I'm quitting because I'm going to be on Broadway. And they were all looking at me like I was nuts. And they were like, well, they were excited and asking me, well, what show are you going to be in? And I was like, well, I don't know yet, but I'm going to be in one of them. So it's kind of like that thing of like, you have to know which way you're heading, but sometimes it's up to the universe to fill in the rest based on what you've already asked for in your heart.
Yes, and I love that. I think also kind of to add to that, it's make a choice that feels right to you at the time, but that gets you moving, right? It
Yes.
gets you moving in some kind of direction.
Yes. And I just noticed that someone said in the comments, I think you believe in law of attraction. And 100%, I absolutely do. It completely changed my life when I, just opened my mind up to the idea that we are like magnets and we
Yes,
can attract into our lives whatever we want. So, yeah.
100%. Can you tell us about that very first show? We're talking about you had that vision. You didn't know what show you wanted to be, you could be in, you were going to be in, but you knew you were going to be in a show. So that moment you stepped onto the stage, the very first show. Can you take us to that time and describe what was that like? What show was it? What was it like?
Yes, so I made my Broadway debut in the revival of The King and I at Lincoln Center. And it was such a surreal moment because up until you're actually in the show, you're not rehearsing with like the full orchestra or the whole set or the costumes. You do a rehearsal with your costumes, but you're the only when you're joining a show, you're the only one in your costumes and everyone else is in like rehearsal clothes. So
Oh,
to yeah, that's what a
how interesting.
post-rehearsal is. Yeah. It's kind of like a rite of passage where everyone else is like just in rehearsal and you're like doing all your quick changes as if it's real because that's like the only real practice you get. Um, but yeah, I remember standing backstage and just hearing the overture and like being so overwhelmed, but you have to just breathe and be like, I know what I'm doing. I trust that this is going to go well, and try to enjoy it as much as you can, even though you're thinking about like a million things. But one special moment I do want to share is I will never, ever forget. In the first act, there's this song, Hello, Young Lovers, and when I was in the show, Kelly O'Hara was playing um, Anna, and she ended up singing. And I just remember, like, we're as wives, we were sitting on the stage just looking up at her, and she just like made eye contact with me and was singing this song. And like, it still makes me like emotional thinking about it, because it was like, wow, I cannot believe this is happening right now. It was surreal. um Such a special moment.
I love that. And I think it is important to, when you get to where to acknowledge those moments, and obviously that you did, to acknowledge that you created this reality for yourself, that through that vision and casting and claiming that vision for yourself, moving in that direction to come to that final moment and to have that recognition. I love that idea, that image of the lead singer making that eye contact with you. Just that eye contact in itself is kind of like that form of, you are seen, you are heard, you are here.
Mm.
I think that I love that image that you just created for us. So, is life on Broadway truly as exciting and fast paced as it seems, or are there sides that we might be surprised to learn about? For example, I was surprised to learn that when you were joining, there's a bit of this rite of passage where you have to practice your costume change, but everyone else has already done that, so they can just come in their normal clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the thing that people don't realize is that once you're in the swing of things, we're doing 8 performances a week. So you have one day off, and the rest of the 8 shows are done within 6 days. So that schedule can be a little bit daunting, but I think most people are surprised to hear that once we get into the run, we're having rehearsals, like the understudies or the swings will meet for regular rehearsals, but the rest of the cast is only really called then when like a new person is going in, or there's another kind of session called by the director or choreographer for brush ups or things like that. So there is there is this sense of stamina that I don't think people realize that it takes to do those 8 shows, even though sometimes we do have the full day off until showtime. So it's a different sense of energy because we're not going all day, but then you are kind of training. When you're in a show, that's the best time to be training, because you're not running from audition to audition unless maybe you are auditioning for something. But um generally, when you're in a show and it's a long running show, that's when you're going to dance class during the day, or getting voice lessons in, or training, going to the gym, and just maintaining your energy to do the 8 shows a week. So that's, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I can't even imagine that. I can imagine based on how you described it, but kind of to be in that moment of, that's your life for that period of time. I guess also you have to be very disciplined in order to have that, to sustain and to put that kind of energy onto the stage.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I think another thing that sometimes surprises people is that, well, this year is obviously different because, everything has been shut down, but generally, like, we are really busy during the holidays, and sometimes we'll even do more than 8 shows a week in order to, meet the demands of all the people for the holidays. So sometimes we don't get that day off, and it's a really demanding schedule. So like you said, it's so important to like maintain your wellness, your mental health, stay energized and stay fulfilled, um, while you're doing the same show over and over and over.
So describing that kind of puts me into this image of this life and the discipline and all the energy that it takes and the stamina. But then all of a sudden, can you describe what that was like for you and your fellow performers when COVID did hit New York? And did you have any idea that it would completely grind Broadway to a halt? All of that suddenly stopping. Can you take us back to that moment and tell us what that's like?
Yeah, well, for me personally, I wasn't in a show when this all started. I had been in audition mode, And I was actually in callbacks for, or in the audition process, final callbacks for a couple of different developmental labs, which is basically like the starting phase of a new Broadway musical. I had also been cast in a show that I was supposed to be doing in Chicago from April to June. So it was all of these things up in the air, and no one really knew what was going to happen. I know friends that were in Broadway shows at the time were just shocked that it was completely shut down. It was like completely unprecedented, unheard of. Um, and then, yeah, this realization that there wasn't going to be work for a long time. So everything was canceled or postponed. And it kept being like, well, maybe these tours will go back out in the summer. And then it was like, okay, maybe the fall. And it just kept kind of getting pushed back and pushed back. So I think that was really the hardest part, was like the level of uncertainty and not knowing how long it was going to be, or not knowing when things might get back to normal. And I have to say, like, we kind of are still in that boat now because we
Yeah.
don't really know when things are going to start happening again. So it's a very strange situation, but I think performers, singers, actors, dancers are like the most versatile people. And I think they're able to really persist and adapt. So it's been fun to watch everything that people have been coming up with during
I'd
this.
love to actually talk right about that exactly. As you said, performers, singers, musicians, like many who are in these industries that rely heavily on face-to-face interactions, that rely on audiences, people coming, to be in person with you, have obviously been hugely affected. But there are also, as you just mentioned, that are also people who have thrived, have really shown their resiliency in spite of these circumstances. So could you give us a few examples of people in your industry who have pivoted perhaps, or who are really actually doing amazingly well?
Well, I think there are some people that are doing more film and TV things or movies. So um, they have been able to adapt and make those sets safe by having people isolate and quarantine and get tested and all of
Right.
those things. So there,
Yes.
there are people that have been very fortunate to be doing that kind of work. And then there are people that are creating new things, or, I know a couple of performers and stage managers that have become real estate agents, or um, other like myself doing nutrition and wellness. So I think that people have pivoted to start teaching more online and offering
Right.
classes and things like that. Um, but yeah, so I feel like it's all over the map. People are, and I even see like people doing like crafts on Etsy and different things. So I think it's a way for people to explore their other interests and find ways to channel that creativity.
I'd love to now talk a little bit about what you've been doing, because I know that you've done something very, very different this past year, something that you and I have had this conversation previously that you never would have imagined you would be doing this year had it not been for the circumstances. So I'd love to know, can you share with everybody how you've changed and how you've adapted?
Yeah. So, I was just like everyone else, not really knowing what I was going to do. And living in New York City, everything was shut down for a while. So I hadn't really been leaving my apartment for like days at a time. Like the only time I would leave my house was to like go to the grocery store. So as a dancer, especially, my level of activity went from like here, running around to auditions and everything, down to like here, and I was doing nothing. So I ended up being like the heaviest I ever was. And more so than that, I think I was just really depleted and confused and feeling yeah, just like a little bit lost. So I ended up, really just being like, well, you know what? I'm going to just focus on taking care of myself. Like, this is my time to really start exercising again, start taking care of my body, like, start feeling the way I would be feeling if I was in a show right now. So I started this whole wellness journey for myself. And it just started, I think this time has been a very inquisitive sort of retrospective time where we can go within and learn a lot about ourselves. And there was just so much that I uncovered through this personal wellness journey of mine. that I decided to get certified as a nutrition coach. And again, I think, especially as performers, we have a very intimate relationship with our bodies because they are our tools and our vessel. So, yeah, I became a nutrition coach and decided that I was going to start sharing this message of worthiness that just felt so important and relevant to actors and dancers and singers who are very often criticized based on your look and based on how you show up in the room. So yeah, that actually sparked my creating the performers plan, which again I had come up with this idea and realized that my younger self, this is what I really needed when I was just graduating college. When I was so stressed, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to believe in myself. Um, and yeah, I just got the idea to create this course and to share this message of, taking care and deciding and being able to succeed in doing what you want to do, not looking for a plan B or a plan C, and just going with what your heart is telling you.
I love that. So is that what it means to live your life at a 10 out of 10? Before we just jump in here, I wanted to, there's been a few comments. So I just wanted to jump in and say, hey, hey, Karina, I love to see you here. I think that's Karina says, this is Smash in real life. Yes, 100%. And she wanted to know how old you were when you did the show. I guess maybe how old were you when you started the show or started being
Um,
on Broadway?
I guess I made my Broadway debut in January of 2016. So I guess I was 26 at the time, 26 or 27.
Yes, but then we were talking about the occurrences specifically of this year, so that she was just asking about that.
Oh, yeah.
And then one user says, Slobodan, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He's asking, is this live? Yes, it is live.
Right.
This is so live. Okay. All right. Thank you for asking. All right. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean? What does it mean to live your this topic has been, we're leading up to this, living life at a 10 out of 10, and I love that when we were chatting about this interview you'd mentioned this. And what I'd love to know, what are some of the signs that can tell us whether or not we actually are living our best life? And I think that's the thing, we get caught up in the routine, we get caught up in just how things are, and we think this is real life, so I just better be satisfied with it. But what are some of the signs that can tell us, no, we are actually a little bit off track, that we are not living our life at a 10 out of 10? Can you share that with us?
Well, I think living your life at a 10 out of 10 is that you feel alive, you feel enthusiastic, you feel fulfilled, you feel joyous, you feel like light, you feel like love, you feel like everything is exactly how you want it to be. And I think you're right that sometimes we get so caught up with what does reality look like, and being like we have to just accept that this is the way it is. But we always have a choice, and we always have the ability to feel our best. And a lot of times we like certain things, especially when it comes to your wellness or your vision or creating the career you desire. There are always opportunities, but it's whether or not you're aligning with those opportunities and
Right.
choosing to see them as possible for yourself. Um, so yeah, I think if you're living your life at a 10 out of 10, you're living life at
Right? So if you're so that's a really good way to put it. If you're questioning, am I living my life at a 10, then it could be a sign in
yeah,
and of itself that there's something in terms of your alignment. There's
yeah.
something off. So it's more of look for the absence of that, right? So what are those steps? What is, I mean, I'm sure there are many steps. What is that first step? Is that first step just acknowledgement and then decision making? Can you guide us through what are the first one or two steps that we need to take when we realize we are not living our life at a 10 out of 10?
Well, I mean, and the thing is, you're not always going to be at a 10. Like, I think it's also okay to acknowledge that there's going to be moments where you're not living your life at a 10. And
Right.
it's always going to be like a little wave, you know? So it's totally normal and human to be like, okay, this week I've actually been living at a 7, you know? So I know for myself, I just check in and I'm like, does this feel the best that I possibly can when it comes to my health or my wellness? Like, am I really taking care of myself at a 10? And then you just like, the thing is, it always comes down to you personally. So
Right.
you're the one who decides, what does a 10 look like for you?
Mm.
Because what I might envision as a 10 has nothing to do with what you see as a 10, like in any category of your life. So I think, yeah, just like checking in and saying, well, how do I feel? Like, do I feel happy? Like, am I enjoying this aspect of my life? And if not, how can I improve it? Or what? I guess so. I guess the first step would be, what does it look like at a 10? Like for
Mm.
you, deciding and getting specific about what does my life look like at a 10? Like what would
Right.
be my uninhibited, best, absolute, greatest life? And then acknowledging the ways that maybe you aren't there now and starting to live your life in that place of a 10 really just requires you to identify like, well, what things are missing that I wish I had then, that I don't have now, and how can I keep making decisions that move me closer to where I want to be.
I love that. And I think that is really important to what you just mentioned about taking stock of your life now, as opposed to thinking of just all the things that you don't like or things that you want. You know, when we think about goal setting, sometimes we think we project into the future. Oh, that's something I'll want someday. I'll get that someday. But then we forget that there are areas of our lives where we are living a 10 out of 10. And sometimes we don't allow ourselves that time to truly acknowledge, you know, even if it's sitting at a beautiful restaurant, or even, you know, having spending 10 minutes or 30 minutes playing with your kids, that is your 10 out of 10. And it's acknowledging that and seeing that, I think, and giving ourselves that time to be aware in that moment to pick up on those. And I think that in itself is a really good first step. So I love that you said that, how you described that.
Yeah.
And I think also one other thing is that as we're approaching the end of the year and we're talking about New Year's resolutions, you know, I think more so is we don't, if this year has taught us anything, is that we don't know really, we can't really envision what's going to happen in the future, right? We can only control what is in our immediate what it is in our immediate control right now, I guess, so to
Yeah.
speak. So just before we end here, I'd love to know, what is your perspective on reclaiming your vision? And why is it important more so now than more than ever to be intentional about this? And what if we are facing that feeling of, well, how do we know how to reclaim our vision if we don't even know what's going to happen, what next year is going to bring us? Do you have any perspectives on that?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, for me, I think the uncertainty is highlighted now, but it also is always that way. Even when things are quote unquote normal, there still is this level of, we don't always know exactly what is going to happen or where life is going to take us. So I think getting comfortable with that uncertainty is important. Um, but reclaiming your vision to me is just remembering that this moment in time is temporary and you still have the power to be, do, or have anything you want, even in these circumstances. And what looks like our reality is only part of the picture.
Mm.
So the more you can let yourself, allow yourself to say, no, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to achieve, by claiming that and knowing that that is your goal, that is where you're heading, that is going to inform all of your current decisions. It's going to
Mm.
make you feel different. It's going to make you act different. It's going to make you be different. So the more you can embrace that now, the more you can allow and attract those opportunities into your life. And that, to me, that is why it's the perfect time, because what else do we have to do except for invest in ourselves right now and really commit to whatever you want, whether it is performing or singing or dancing or being on Broadway, whatever it is for you. Um, but I think it just highlights the fact that, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen, so we might as well live our life at a 10 and really get after what we want instead
100%.
of
Yeah.
feeling like we can't have it.
Right, exactly. And how does it serve us to get stuck in this feeling of, I can't control anything and things are happening to me. I'm just reacting to everything. That doesn't serve us at all, right?
No, no.
Yes. So tell us again, tell us about the performance plan. Who is this for specifically? And what will students achieve by the end of your course, which is launching in January? Is that right?
Yes, it's
Okay,
launching
tell
in
us about
January.
it.
So the performers plan is, like you said, a 4-week course, introduction course to managing your mind, body, and money to create the career you desire. So it's really, I guess, a wellness course for performers because there's so many things out there that can teach you technique or, different styles, but no one is really teaching how to be in this industry and take care of yourself, how to manage the stress of auditions or maybe the disappointments of, getting those no's. And you have to be really persistent and be able to take care of yourself and the longevity of your career. So, yeah, my course is talking about mindset and nutrition and how to love your body, have a better relationship with yourself, understand how to budget money for performers. I think is so important that people don't talk about. And I think it's one of those fears that people, who want to go into this industry, they're like, well, how am I going to support myself? How am I going to navigate this? So we're going to talk about all of those things and yeah, also ways to keep moving forward even in times like this and how to find that motivation for yourself and be intentional about your everyday skills and habits.
And when you say this is made and created for performers, you also mean anybody who is booking shows, stage performers, people who have, and that's why that money aspect is so important. Because what if you need to plan for those times when you don't have shows? I think you had mentioned that in a previous conversation with me. We don't talk about that when people see that people are on Broadway performers. We don't realize that, well, that show run ends, and so what happens in the in between, right? And how can you manage and budget for that? I think that is so important. And at the end of this, what will people achieve? What will your students achieve at the end of this 4-week program?
They will have the confidence to be moving forward in this field, knowing that they can support themselves and knowing
Wonderful.
that they know exactly what they want. So the course is going to help people identify what they're going after and then give them the skills to keep moving towards it.
I love that. And finally, what is the best way for people to stay connected with you? So if you are watching right now, whether live or the replay, if you look in the description box, there are links. But what would you say is the best way? There's like 4 or 5 links, but what would you say is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Honestly, the best place to find me is on Instagram at Kelli Youngman Wellness. If you message me in the DMs, I always respond and I love connecting with people. I also
Wonderful.
have a freebie available if you're interested. It's kellyyoungmanwellness.com/5 things, the number 5. And I share 5 things that I've learned that I wish I knew before I booked Broadway.
Okay, I love that. 5 things I wish I knew before I booked Broadway. All right, so that this has been wonderful and been so and thank you so much for your time and your insight. I want to take this moment to remind all my inner circle members, if you're watching right now, to join us. We still have a private session, a private Zoom session with Kelli. Join us on our Zoom session. The Zoom link will be found in the events post in the Mighty Networks members area. It's also going to be in your email and it's also going to be in the Facebook group. So, in our private session with Kelli, we'll be diving deeper into more practical strategies for crafting your vision for 2021. We're also going to be talking about how to deal with those no's, how to deal with the setbacks and disappointments, whether you're a performer or just in life in general. And we're also going to talk more about strategies, how to start living your life from a place of alignment. So I'm excited about that. So go ahead and jump on that Zoom link now, Inner Circle members. And before we go, I want to remind everyone again that if you are interested in discovering the brilliance of your voice, then get on the wait list for my free training that's coming up as well. First 3 steps to using your voice with impact. Also, get onto Kelli's freebie as well. We got a lot of free stuff for all of you right now. And thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Thank you, Kelli, for your time again.
Yes.
All right, that's all for now, and we will all see you again very soon. So, Inner Circle members, we will see you in Zoom. All right, goodbye, everybody. Thank you, Kelli.
Bye.